Your poop tells a story, a very important story. The color, the texture, the smell, all of it tells a very unique story. Now you're going to learn what your poop says about your gut health and the root causes of issues like your Crohn's and colitis. We're going to break it down to just 5 types of poop. We're going to call them rocks, logs, snakes, pudding, and tea. We're going to talk about the different colors and what the different smells can actually mean. We're going to talk about what it actually says about your body's overall health and some other organ systems that might be compromised. And of course, we're going to talk about what you can learn about things like stool labs, like GI mapping. Contrary to what your doctors told you, Crohn's and colitis are reversible. Now, I've helped hundreds of people reverse their bowel disease, and I'm here to help you do it too, because inflammation always has a root cause. We just have to find it. This is the Reversing Crohn's and Colitis Naturally podcast. Now, I do these live trainings in my Facebook group every single week and put the audios here for you to listen to. If you want to watch the video versions of these episodes, just click the link in the show notes to get access to our Facebook group and YouTube channel. And for weekly updates, information, tips, and tricks, you can sign up for our email list by clicking the link in the show notes below. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Josh Deck. I'm an IBD specialist, medical lecturer, physician's consultant for Crohn's, colitis, and severe IBS, and the scientific strategist and education director for the Root Cause for Crohn's Colitis organization. And today, I am showing you how to read your poop like a crystal ball. Now, the good news is you don't have to touch it like a crystal ball. We're just going to use your eyes and your nose. So let's get into this one. There is a gold standard for poop. I'm going to talk about that. When I say a gold standard, what does that mean? I mean best case scenario, a perfectly healthy stool. What is it going to look like? What's it going to sound like, smell like, etc. So here's what we're going to do. We got 5 main textures we're talking about: rocks, logs, snakes, pudding, and tea. I'm sure you can distill down what those mean, but here's what you want to know. The gold standard, the best stool you can really have, is going to be snakes. This means it comes out, it's one piece, however long it might be, and you feel very well, fully voided after that. Now, we're also going to have only 1 to 2 wipes. This means you give it a wipe, it's not sticky, it's not wet, it's not still going, there's not multiples after. 1, 2, and done. It should, ideally, depends who you ask, we say sink to the bottom. Boop, down it goes, it's not floating and breaking apart. We also want to see, we're going to call like a mid-brown color. Not too light, not too dark, just kind of like that milk chocolate brown. If I'm ruining chocolate for you, you're welcome. And what we also want to know, I'm not going to say no smell, all poop smells, unless you're outcast. OGs will get that. But anyway, it shouldn't linger in the bathroom. The smell shouldn't be something that's horrible, that's lingering around, that's just like, takes half an hour to close, you got to light a match and a candle. It shouldn't be that smelly. So it should be snakes, solid piece, voided 1 to 2 stools, 1 wipe, sinks, mid-brown, doesn't stink or doesn't linger. That's what we're looking for. Now, the problem is we have anything outside of this. Remember, we have these different textures, we're calling them rocks, think pellets and pebbles. We have logs, which are going to be harder, thicker, typically a lot clumpier. Then we have your snakes, which is kind of right in the middle. Then you got pudding, which is going to be a lot looser, and then tea. And we all know what the texture of tea is. And so that's sort of how we're breaking it down. You guys can go to the Bristol stool chart if you want something more medically broken down, more diverse, but this is a great way to look at it for now. These are the perfect stool right here in the middle. Anything above or below is indications of forms or the spectrum variant of constipation or diarrhea. So it's just going to depend on what's what. So here's the thing. Your texture, if you guys are hearing, I got a wiener dog down here who is absolutely shameless. Show your face, Bruce. He's just digging right now. But anyway, so that's what he's doing. But here's what we're talking about. There's different textures you can get. Let's go through the round of these ones. If we've got too many rocks, it's too hard, things aren't working very well, it means your transit time is too slow. It's too dry, it's too rocky, it's too clumpy. You might be over-absorbing all the water, which means you're over-absorbing toxins. This also means, in general, you've got poor digestion. It's just not working very well. You might be dehydrated. You might have, again, problems absorbing all these extra toxins, which toxify your gut even more. You might have too little or too much fiber. In fact, there's lots of studies. We always think, well, I gotta be able to get a bowel movement. I should eat more fiber. There are a lot of studies showing that those who are constipated in the rocks or the logs, that you're going to have too much fiber. Cutting it back might actually be a really good thing for you. There's a big debate about fiber and what we need. But this is one textural thing we can look at, okay? Dry, rocky, lumpy, and firm. The other thing we can see with texture, we might even see something that's sticky. What does sticky mean? I'm sure we've all been there. You've gone to a wipe and it just takes 5, 6, 7, or it sticks to the bowl, leaves a streak. This is sticky. This is going to mean there's bacterial issues, typically overgrowth. You might have some issues with fat absorption. We call this fat malabsorption. So it's going to be really oily and kind of wet. It could be a lot of excess gas that creates air bubbles in there, giving it more sort of a porousness to stick. And so this is going to show there's overgrowth. So too hard, too slow. Too sticky, too much fat, too much bacteria often. There's other things we can look at as well. Your color of your stool is going to show us a lot of information about you and what's going on. Consider some stools might actually be pale or almost gray in color. What does a pale gray stool mean? Well, it's typically going to look to show issues with bile. So bile insufficiency, or that your gallbladder and your liver might be congested. You might not be producing enough bile. Bile contributes to the color that we see. Now, if we see this pale gray, it's typically bile insufficiency. On the other hand, if it actually gets a bit too green, because that's what bile is going to be, is a greeny yellow color. If it's too green, maybe you have really rapid transit times. Maybe it's actually showing that your body's dumping bile or you're not reabsorbing your bile very well. This can even be called BAM, or bile acid malabsorption, can be in this spectrum as well. If it's sort of green, it might also show, could be like a detoxifying reaction. It's too much dumping into your system. And that can be what's going on there. So it can tell us your liver and gallbladder are dysfunctional. That can be parasitic, it can be heavy metals, it can be mold that contribute to this thing, which leads to these types of colors. Now, what if your stool is like yellow? It can be yellow and oily, it can be yellow and frothy and kind of airy or really loose. Yellow, again, typically going to mean fat malabsorption, pancreatic insufficiency, or even SIBO. That's SIBO, stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So you can have too much bacteria, can lead to these yellowy colors. On the other hand, if it's like yellowy, almost like a foul, sweet honey smell, you could have a C. diff infection. Really like yellow, runny, watery stools with that yellow, very foul smell. And it's highly contagious. So, I mean, closing the lid after you flush and then sanitize that. Wash your hands like crazy because those spores can get everywhere. On the other hand now, we talked about pale and gray. We got yellow, greasy, wet, oily, typically fat malabsorption. So that's fat in your stool. That'll often be paired with a really foul smell because you can be hyper fermenting these fats as well, which can lead to all kinds of odd smells and textures. Now, there's two other kinds of bleeding we're going to talk about. You can have what's called like a black tarry stool. So tarry can be both in texture and in color. If it's almost sticky or almost looks like coffee grounds, that can be coagulated blood. It can be an upper GI bleed. So esophagus, stomach, small bowel, that can come out after it's been coagulated, showing black. Or of course, there's bright red, and you're all familiar with this, which is going to be ulcers, fistulas, hemorrhoids, any kind of lower GI bleed where the blood is coming out before it coagulates and turns dark. So this is what we want to know about color. But let's talk a bit more about smell. Smell tells us lots about your stool and what's going on and what might be driving your issues. The more foul a stool smells, the more bacterial overgrowth you likely have. There's a direct correlation between the smell and the amount of gassiness that you have and the amount of bacteria that's in there. If there's big overgrowth of bacteria, they're going to produce all these extra byproducts. All a fart really is like a trillion little itty bitty bacterial farts that turn into one big gas bubble, and out it goes. And so if you have a really foul smelling gas or really foul smelling stools, there's likely a lot of bacterial overgrowth. Then we can pair this with other things and look at yellow, oily, greasy stool. Well, that smell could also be in combination. It could be malabsorbing fats and hyperfermentation. So keep that in mind as well. There's different types of smells. Now, if you're getting more of like that rotten egg smell, it's almost like sulfury. This can actually be an indicator that your liver is really congested. It's not breaking down these sulfur compounds and using them properly. Now, this can again be caused by toxins, metals, alcohol, mold, parasites, can all congest the liver. If you have low levels of glutathione, these antioxidants your body naturally produces. If you have low levels, sometimes you get that foul smell. So again, back to liver and bile congestion. We have to open those up. Two of the biggest congested pathways in IBD-IC ever are liver and bile ducts. We have to watch for that. Now, if you maybe have, this one's a bit more rare, but if it's almost like a sweet, even fruity kind of smell. Now, it's not going to be fruity like an apple. It's going to be still poop. But keep in mind, a sweeter, fruity smell can sometimes show carbohydrate malabsorption. And oftentimes that can show us candida overgrowth. Now, there's other pairs. One smell doesn't always indicate a perfect issue. This is why we're talking about smell and color and all these things in different areas, because it can all mean different things in context. Think about it. How many uses for the F word can you think of? Like 50. All used in context, it means different things. So all these pieces we're giving you matter in context. So apply it to what you've learned so far. Let's talk about something else. This is a very important part of looking at your stool to see what's going on. We're going to call this components. Now, in a perfect world, we go back to our gold standard poop. That's going to be a snake. It's going to be solid, one wipe, sinks to the bottom. It's medium brown. The smell doesn't linger. Now, we have components. That means it's not smooth. It's not one color. It might be multicolored. It might be chunky. It might have bits and pieces or flecks or specks or all kinds of chunks in it. This is telling us something. If you have chunks of food, you're not absorbing. It can be low stomach acid. It can be pancreatic insufficiency, which is very common. We call it EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. We see this a lot with IBD, but often again is paired with liver and gallbladder congestion. So you could have some issues there. Again, SIBO, etc. So if you're seeing actual parts and pieces or undigested food, your body is not breaking it down. That can also come with rapid transit time. Other things we want to look at. If you have other components like foam or air bubbles, this can be excess gas, which again points us back to bacterial overgrowth. But here's what's really interesting. A large thing that I see a lot of in Crohn's colitis is we can actually see white or even yellow flecks, like speckles or spots or flecks. This is a huge indicator of candida, which is a fungal overgrowth. If candida is overgrowing, you can even get almost looks like, I'm going to ruin bubble tea for everybody. But you know the little pearls that come in bubble tea? They can be that size or even smaller, but like kind of white or even yellowish. That can often be candida, which is fungus. And if you get these little white specks or flecks, it's a big candida issue. We need to really manage some of that and bring that fungal overgrowth down. Other things you might be able to see, perhaps you're seeing strings, or it even could look like thin little worms. They can be long, they can be short, they can be rounded. Or if you're even seeing something that looks like almost like tomato skins or like bell pepper skins, like they're folded or rolled, that is actually liver flukes if you haven't eaten those tomato skins. So strings, worms, skins look like folded up. Those can be parasitic as well. We don't always see them in our stool, but we can. It's very, very common. I've seen people pass some pretty crazy stuff where it's almost like a golf ball and it's like the texture of petroleum jelly. There's all kinds of wild stuff your body can pass. Depends on what's congested. Bile and cholesterol and fat and parasites. I've seen these big, thick, stringy, like thickness of your thumb or more, thick, stringy, clumpy bits, which are often called mucoid plaques, which can be buildup of skin and gut lining and fungus and all kinds of stuff. Even worms can coat themselves in all kinds of stuff, and they can look like these plaques. So there's a lot of stuff that can come out of us, which is a little bit terrifying sometimes, but they're there. Ultimately, what we have to look at is all these bits and pieces. I'm going to simplify this. The smellier your stool is, the more bacteria you probably have. If you're seeing undigested food, it's rapid transit time or an insufficiency of digestion. So stomach acid, digestive enzymes, liver. Almost everybody with Crohn's colitis needs to open their liver, gallbladder, and bile ducts and just get things moving. Lots of things we can do for that, but we'll get to that through the question if we need to. If you are experiencing textures besides smoothness, again, it's malabsorption or it's something that shouldn't be in there. Fungus, worms, etc. Unfortunately, we can't check for mold just looking at your stool, but if you're sending a stool sample like a GI map, sometimes there are things that can be measured. Sometimes you can look at tests like an organic acid or get a urine test and check for mold if you're worried about that. But keeping in mind, 70% of US homes have a mold problem. There's a good chance you do as well. But a GI map is a stool sample that measures your gut bacteria. We call this your gut microbiome, and it measures all the good and all the bad guys that we can possibly detect with our technology we have today. And we can see what's high, what's low. Now, a lot of people come to me and go, Josh, I want a GI map. I want a stool sample. That's getting my golden ticket out of here. Consider this. A GI map is not all it's always cracked up to be. Context matters. So let's look at this. Your gut down here, your bacteria is all messed up, okay? And this is what we measure with a GI map. That's a stool sample. You poop in a box, send it to the mail. You got to look someone in the eye at the post office and give them this present. But you send it to a lab. Okay. Well, your gut bacteria is all messed up. Why? Your gut bacteria measuring with a GI map is a downstream issue from something that started it up top. So there are many other resources or tests that I prefer to do before I go to a GI map. Maybe it's just symptoms, maybe it's history, maybe it's organic acids, maybe it's a total tox test, maybe it's hair tissue mineral analysis. But there's other things that can point to why we're down here. It's like going in for a colonoscopy. Look how inflamed you are. You're all red. It's here, here, and here. It tells me where you are inflamed, how bad you are inflamed, but not why you are inflamed. We always want to go back to roots upstream. I want to know what messed your bacteria up. Now, there are markers in there sometimes we can detect. Well, Josh, what about parasites? Sometimes, it's very, very rare. You can actually find them on stool. They can hide in muscles, liver, lungs, pancreas, bile ducts, wherever. They don't always come out in stool. Even if they are in your bowel, we don't always see them. There are other markers we can look at that can indicate parasites, like something we call EAP, stands for eosinophil activation protein. This eosinophil is a type of white blood cell, often elevated about 30% of the time. They're elevated with an active parasite infection. There's all kinds of bits and pieces we can gather in context. So don't go rushing for a GI map just yet to try to measure a stool sample. I want to know why it happened in the first place. But here's what I want to do. Your stool tells a lot about you. It's the window basically to your soul. It tells us all about your gut, tells us all about your body, tells us all about your root causes. It's one of those things where if you think about it, you and I'm speaking the English language and you're listening in the English language. The more words I use in my vocabulary, the broader of a concept I can explain. And once you understand it, you can go from basic words like shopping, buying groceries, and asking where the bathroom is, to understanding poetry and literature, right? Context matters around these words. The same thing with all these symptoms that we're going through, different colors, textures, smells, components of your stool, they all tell us something, but it all is very contextual. So I was able to go through this today to give you an idea, but you have to understand the broader spectrum. But there's a couple of things that are easy. If your stool is oily and greasy, it's a gallbladder, liver, bile duct issue. You're not absorbing fats. And I have to sneeze. There it is. There's usually two, but I'll get back to you. So we know greasy stool is a giveaway. Always going to be an issue with fats. But why? Typically, it's liver and gallbladder that's messed up. You're not absorbing. You're not producing enough bile. Why? We always have to go back and ask why till we can get to the root cause. And this is really what we do here is dive into root causes. So I'm going to right now turn over to the comment section. So I want to make sure we can get you all some help here with all your questions, burning questions, get you some answers. Stephanie had asked, random, nicotine as treatment. Would not be smoking, but a patch. Thoughts? I love that you're trying to concise that for text purposes. It makes it very hard to read though, Stephanie. So the question effectively is nicotine a treatment? And if it's not smoking, but a patch, would that be ideal? Here's what I can say. There is a remarkable amount of research around nicotine for the use of IBD. Smoking obviously is trash. It depletes vitamin C, B vitamins. It's highly toxic, cancerous, the works. But the nicotine can help suppress pathways of the immune system that contribute to inflammation. Nicotine has also been shown really beneficial for those dealing with jabby jab effects post jab. So there's lots of things that can be happening with nicotine. Do I recommend it? No. I think there are a lot of other alternatives we can get to that are going to give you a lot better of result long term. Now, if you're looking for something short term, sure, like something like curcumin, which is like a curcumin and Qing Dai, short term, but can have toxic effects long term. What we're looking to do right now is not just manage your symptoms, but actually get to the root of to why you're having them. Right? That's ultimately what we want to get to. Otherwise, it's a medication. Even if it's plant-based medication. Medications are short-term treatments for chronic problems where you constantly have to reapply the Band-Aid over and over and over. Whereas what we're looking for is a root cause, so you don't need the Band-Aid over and over and over. So again, to answer that shortly, nicotine, can it be beneficial? Yes. Do I recommend it? Not as a first line. There's lots of other things I'd rather do first. Joyce had said, maybe I missed it, but what did you say about white ball poop? Fungus, candida. There's little white balls, white or yellow balls, or like flecks and specks can be fungal. That's something that I can tell you firsthand because I dealt with that for a very long time. Fungus, fungus, fungus. So keep that in mind. There's always something. Your stool always tells us something about you. Now, that's all we got for you guys for tonight. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time and attention. Check out our free resources. If you're still unsure, you don't know what to do, ask. We have a ton of them. We want to make sure you can take advantage of all of those.
We do have a question.
Oh, we have a question on Instagram. Now go ahead.
Inflammation, acne scars, redness. That's all I've got.
So the comment, inflammation, acne scars, redness. I'm going to put it together in context. If you want to add some more context there on Instagram, please do. Here's what I will say. Acne scars, redness, and inflammation, especially on your skin, you have 7 main drainage pathways. Detoxing is collecting your trash. Drainage is bringing it out to the curb. Your 7 drainage, that's exit pathways in your body. You're going to have your liver. You're going to have your gallbladder and bile ducts. You're also going to have your lymphatics. You're going to have your sinuses, bowels, kidneys, and of course, your skin. Now, in bowel disease, in most other gut issues, liver and gallbladder typically junked up. If you're having fungal issues like candida, guess what? Your lymphatic system's probably going to be junked up. My candida was all-time high. I actually had acne down my arms on both sides, exact same spot. These are lymphatic lines. I had issues there. If you're experiencing sinus issues and those are backed up, well, of course. You're listening to this or watching right now because you got gut issues. So guess what? Your bowels are also compromised. God can only hope your kidneys are still working. That means you got kidneys and skin that are working really, really well. So what does your body do when you have all this fungus blocking up everything else? Pulls the emergency release hatch, pushes it through the skin. You get redness and inflammation because it's toxins, which also alters the microbiome on your skin. It's pushing things out through the pores. That's why acne develops from the inside and pushes out, not the top down. Topical does jack all for acne. It's coming from the inside out because your body can be pushing toxins through the skin. And there's a huge correlation between acne, cystic acne, whatever other kind, and fungus. So if you're experiencing redness, pain, inflammation, acne, pimples, cystic, we got to look inside and starting with the gut because your body might be pulling the hatch because all your exit doors are blocked and it's got to push it through the skin now. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, so she has a follow-up here. She says, I have that on my face. Should I be cleansing from within? And then testosterone. Does that have anything to do with any of these issues?
Okay, got it. So the follow-up to that acne question was I have it on my face. Face is a common place for it. And I'm going to tie this one to the follow-up, which was, does testosterone have anything to do with these issues? It can, absolutely. Hormones play a huge role. Excess testosterone can increase what's called sebum, S-E-B-U-M, sebum production, which is oil. If you're producing excess oil, it can clog your pores, gather toxins, etc., and can show up as acne. Hormones have a huge role to play. On the other hand, so does your gut. Now, what I can tell you, I'll just give you some personal context. Years ago, I had really severe acne. There wasn't an inch on my back, not covered in acne. Again, down my shoulders, arms, up my neck, it was all over the place. I was also on anabolic steroids. So I was taking testosterone injections. I'm only 5'9". Look at me now. I'm 175 pounds. I was 215. Like I literally could not wipe my own ass. I was quite large. And so what ended up happening, the testosterone rather, also junked up my liver. And my liver had to deal with more toxicity, which then was also bugged up, which meant my liver got junked up, my gallbladders got more junked up, which continued to junk up my limbs, etc., etc., etc. So my acne actually got worse. Extra testosterone, extra sebum, so oil, and extra drainage issues, which contributed to the acne I was experiencing. So there's always something that's going on. There's always going to be something in there, but all these parts and pieces matter. It's just in context. For those who are taking performance enhancing drugs and are dealing with gut issues, I highly recommend dropping them immediately because it's going to cause a lot more problems for you right now, especially if you're taking testosterone just for like TRT or testosterone replacement to get back to baseline. That's different. But then we want to ask, why are you low in the first place? There's always a why. There's always a question.
Yeah. So she's asking, do you recommend sea moss?
Irish sea moss, sure.
Yeah, and then there's a brand, Purau.
So the answer to all those things is yes and no. Do I recommend things like Irish sea moss or other brands? No, I don't, because I think so much of the time we're looking for a silver bullet. If I take this thing, will it give me the vitamins I need to balance? We don't need vitamins most of the time to balance. Most of us are sick because we have toxins in our body or microbial imbalances or infections. Taking CMOS isn't your silver bullet. What I'd be looking to do is figure out why you're sick in the first place that's producing these symptoms, rather than trying to get something to combat the symptom. Get to the root of what's producing the symptom. It's kind of like saying, well, if I put my hands in liquid nitrogen, will I not get burned? How about we figure out what started the fire, right? Rather than just trying to cover up your skin from getting burned, let's put the fire out. That's where I'm interested. So this is why I get asked all the time, well, do you recommend this supplement or that supplement? Most of the time, the answer is going to be no. If you're not looking at something and saying, hey, here's the thing, let's go with the Candida train. I've got Candida fungus. It's producing these issues. If I want to combat it, I need this thing, which will kill the Candida or reduce it and get my toxins out. That's what I'm interested in. What you're saying is, what can I use to stop it from producing, for example, or coming out of my skin? If I can identify, better yet, if I cannot identify what I'm going after, what I'm going to take to kill it or get rid of it or remove it, how long I'm expecting to be on it, and the results it should elicit, I have no business taking any kind of supplement. So anybody who comes to work with us, I tell them, they say, well, how many supplements do I need for how long? I'm going to identify what's causing the problem, how long I expect you to be on this thing, the results I expect it to elicit, and then we can phase them out and use supplements that way. But if you're just using it to manage your symptoms, you're on plant-based medication. It's a lifetime subscription, and you'll never truly get better. So you have to be very careful about that. But we want to get to your root causes. I don't want to be just throwing supplements at you for the rest of your life, hoping for the best. We want to be targeted. We want to be specific. We want to be able to expect timelines. Candida can take a long time, 12 to 18 months on average. So be prepared, depending on how long you've had it. There's biofilms. It gets all kinds of protective layers. It messes up with your immune system. It invites other bad guys in. It becomes a compounding issue. So it's very rare. There's no one supplement to take for Candida that'll just kill it forever. It's multi-layered, multi-compound. Anyway, thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time. One of my favorite things to hear as an IBD specialist is something along the lines of, I learned more from you in 15 minutes than from my doctor in 15 years. And if this for the first time is really starting to click and it's starting to make sense, and you're going, wait a minute, this might be reversible. I think there's more that I can do. This condition came out of nowhere. It happened to me out of the blue. I was healthy for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and suddenly I wasn't, and you're telling me there's no cause. If you're understanding finally that there is a cause, that something is driving this, I want to invite you to check the link in the show notes below. Send me an email, ask a question, see if a program is a right fit for you, because I promise you, this doesn't have to be a lifelong sentence. You're not doomed to this, and IBD can be reversed.